This page was created to teach Black history. Unfortunately, the American educational system was designed to exclude our real historical account, so we are here to dismantle it. It's time to enlighten those of us who have been kept in the dark. I am a Black man who didn't know enough about my own history, so I began to dig deeper and do my own research. Black history is American history, so I want people of all races and cultures to join together to learn our history as one. Here, I will share all of my findings. Please like, follow, share, and subscribe to Teaching Black History. The story of Marsha P. Johnson. Johnson was born Malcolm Michaels Jr. on August 24th, 1945, in Elizabeth, New Jersey. Johnson had 6 siblings and a father, Malcolm Michaels Sr., who was an assembly line worker at General Motors. Michael's mother, Alberta, was a housekeeper. They attended an African Methodist church during Johnson's childhood and remained devoutly religious in later life. Johnson first began wearing dresses at the age of 5, but stopped temporarily due to harassment by boys who lived nearby. In a 1992 interview, Johnson described being the young victim of sexual assault by an adolescent boy. After this, Johnson described the ideal of being gay as some sort of dream, rather than something that seemed possible, and so chose to remain sexually inactive until leaving for New York City at age 17. Johnson's mother reportedly said that being homosexual is like being lower than a dog. But Johnson said that Alberta was unaware of the LGBT community. After graduating from Edison High School in Elizabeth in 1963, Johnson left home for New York City with $15 and a bag of clothes. Johnson waited on tables after moving to Greenwood Village in 1966. After Johnson began hanging out with the street hustlers near the Howard Johnsons at 6th Avenue and 8th Street, Johnson's life changed. Johnson came out and said, "My life has been built around sex and gay liberation, being a drag queen and sex work." Johnson initially used the moniker Black Marsha, but later decided on the drag queen name Marsha P. Johnson. Getting Johnson from the restaurant Howard Johnson's on 42nd Street, stating that the P stood for pay it no mind, and used the phrase sarcastically when questioned about gender, saying it stands for pay it no mind. Johnson's style of drag was not serious, high drag or show drag, due to being unable to afford to purchase clothing from expensive stores. Johnson received leftover flowers after sleeping under tables used for sorting flowers in the flower district of Manhattan, and was known for wearing crowns of fresh flowers. Johnson was tall, slender, and often dressed in flowing robes and shiny dresses, red plastic high heels, and bright wigs, which tended to draw attention. There is some existing footage of Johnson doing full, glamorous high drag on stage, but most of Johnson's performances worked with groups that were more grassroots and political. Johnson also became an AIDS activist. Johnson was one of the first drag queens to go to the Stonewall Inn after they began allowing women and drag queens inside. It was previously a bar for only gay men. On the early morning hours of June 28th, 1969, the Stonewall uprising occurred. While the first 2 nights of rioting were the most intense, the clashes with police would result in a series of spontaneous demonstrations and marches through the gay neighborhoods of Greenwich Village for roughly a week afterwards. Johnson denied starting the uprising. In 1987, Johnson recalled arriving at around 2 that morning, that the riots had already started by that time, and that Stonewall building was on fire after police set it on fire. Following the Stonewall uprising, Johnson joined the Gay Liberation Front and was active in the Drag Queen Caucus. Shortly after that, Johnson and close friend Sylvia Riviera co-founded the Street Transvestite Action Revolutionaries, STAR organization, initially titled Street Transvestites Actual Revolutionaries. The two of them became a visible presence at gay liberation marches and other radical political actions. During another incident around this time, Johnson was confronted by police officers for hustling in New York. When the officers attempted to perform an arrest, Johnson hit them with a handbag which contained 2 bricks. When asked by the judge for an explanation for hustling, Johnson claimed to be trying to secure enough money for a tombstone for Johnson's husband. During a time when same-sex marriage was illegal in the United States, the judge asked, "What happened to this alleged husband?" Johnson responded, "Pig shot him." With Riviera, Johnson established the Star House, a shelter for gay and trans street kids, in 1972, and paid the rent for it with money they made themselves as sex workers. Johnson worked to provide food, clothing, emotional support, and a sense of family for the young drag queens, trans women, gender nonconformists, and other gay street kids living on the Christopher Street docks or in their house on the Lower East Side of New York. In the 1980s, Johnson continued to play an active part in street activism as a respected organizer and marshal with ACT UP. In 1992, when George Segal's Stonewall Memorial moved to Christopher Street from Ohio to recognize the gay liberation movement, Johnson commented, "How many people have died for these 2 little statues to be put in the park to recognize gay people? How many years does it take for people to see that we're all brothers and sisters and all human beings in the human race? I mean, how many years does it take for people to see that we're all in this rat race together?" By 1966, Johnson lived on the streets and engaged in survival sex. In connection with sex work, Johnson claimed to have been arrested over 100 times and was also shot once in the late 1970s. Though generally regarded as generous and warm-hearted and saintly under the Marsha's persona, Johnson's anger, violent side could sometimes emerge when Johnson was depressed or under severe stress. Some felt it was more common for this to happen under Johnson's male persona as Malcolm. During those moments when Johnson's violent side emerged, according to an acquaintance, Johnson could be aggressive and short-tempered, and speak in a deeper voice, as Malcolm would become a very nasty, vicious man looking for fights. This dual personality of Johnson's has been described as a schizophrenic personality at work. When this happened, Johnson would often get in fights and wind up hospitalized and sedated, and friends would have to organize and raise money to bail Johnson out of jail. Shortly after the 1992 Pride Parade, Johnson's body was discovered floating in the Hudson River. Police initially ruled the death a suicide, but Johnson's friends and other members of the local community insisted Johnson was not suicidal and noted that the back of Johnson's head had a massive wound. According to Sylvia Riviere, their friend Bob Kohler believed Johnson had committed suicide due to an ever-increasing fragile state, which Riviere herself disputed, claiming she and Johnson had made a pact to cross the River Jordan, aka Hudson River, together. Those who were close to Johnson considered his death suspicious. Many claim that while Johnson did struggle mentally, this did not manifest itself as suicidal. Johnson was cremated, and following a funeral at a local church, friends released Johnson's ashes over the river.